Have you ever felt confused about when to use the preterite or imperfect when telling stories in the past? Like knowing when to use the preterite tense versus the imperfect tense. Most people believe that knowing when to use either tense is too complex of an issue. But the truth is, knowing when to use the preterite or the imperfect tense can be just as easy as using the present tense. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to easily navigate between when to use the preterite versus when to use the imperfect tense. All by just using 3 easy key strategies. And once you learn how to apply them, you'll be flawlessly narrating any and every event in Spanish without thinking twice. So let's get into it. A propósito, if you're joining me for the first time, soy Profe Don Omar, a Spanish teacher turned Spanish coach who's helped thousands of people go from bumbling basic phrases to smooth, confident conversations in Espanol over the last 24 years. Now, this is our 4th video in our series, Using the Simple Past. In the first video, we covered the intro to the preterite tense. The second was the irregular preterite or the super irregulars. The third is where we talked about all things imperfect tense, which was super easy, and we even included the irregular verbs in the imperfect tense. Need a recap of those? I'll link them up to this video here in a playlist, and I'll put it in the description below so you can check those out. Entonces recuerda, en español hay 2 tiempos básicos para hablar de pasado. So issue number 1 is, how do I know which tense to use? Can I just use one or the other to talk about things in the past? Short answer, pues no puedes. But a little known fact is that we actually use the preterite and the imperfect tense in English. We just don't realize that we use it. But to avoid confusion, I want you to look at it like this. And we'll do these separately so that you can retain this information that much easier. We use the preterite tense to talk about completed actions in the past. That's it. That's all you have to remember. Por ejemplo, ayer yo comí una hamburguesa con queso. Otro ejemplo. Anoche tú hablaste con Carolina. Y el último ejemplo, su mamá cocinó arroz con gandules esta tarde. So to make sure this sticks, we're going to use our first acronym, noises, to help you remember when to use el pretérito. Entonces, la primera letra, la N, talking about narrating an event or what happened in a story. Por ejemplo, Cenicienta fue a baile. O los Diablos Azules perdieron el partido de baloncesto contra Houston. La próxima letra, la O, one-time occurrence. Por ejemplo, ellos ganaron la lotería. O yo comí una hamburguesa con queso. So what we're looking at right there is once we won that lottery that one time, there's a pretty small chance of winning it twice. And in the second example, yo comí una hamburguesa con queso, once I ate it, that actual cheeseburger cannot be eaten anymore. It's a one-time occurrence. Our next letter up, la I, the I, which is for interrupting actions or events. Now this right here, this is one of my favorites to talk about. Real quick, 2 things. I want to thank you personally for taking time to watch this video, but did you know that over 76% of people who watch the videos here on Speak Spanish Now are not subscribed? And there's a good chance that you could be one of them. So make sure you're subscribed so you catch all of the fun tips, the creative strategies, and easy to follow lessons. The second thing is that my Spanish Made Simple challenge is coming up very soon, and I want to make sure that you are a part of it. It's a 5-day challenge where I guide you through some of the basics of learning Spanish, key tactics and strategies I've used with my clients and students for over the last 24 years. But more importantly, I want to encourage you to register for the VIP experience where we will spend an additional hour addressing specific questions you may have, as well as hands-on practice on how to properly listen, comprehend, and speak the language. So use the link below to get registered for the Spanish Made Simple Challenge, and I'll see you there. Now, let's get back to the rest of the video. I'm just going to give you the basics on interrupting actions or events right now, but stick around to the end of the video where I break it down and give you one additional strategy here that's going to help you understand these interrupting actions or events that much better. So we have to think about an interrupting action or event like this. Something is already going on or taking place. Por ejemplo, María cantaba en la ducha. That's the action that's already taking place. The interrupting action, cuando su móvil sonó, when her phone rang. So Maria was singing in the shower when her phone rang. The ongoing action is Maria was singing in the shower. The interrupting action is her phone rang. But we'll get into that more in depth a little later. I call it el río y el relámpago. But you can already see this is the secret to being able to tell better stories when you incorporate this type of movement between interrupting actions and ongoing situations. In other words, knowing when to be able to include the preterite tense and whenever it's time to incorporate using the imperfect tense. When you can do both of these, that's when you know you're getting into another realm of Spanish language mastery. Okay, so let's get back into it. We've already covered the N, the O, and the I. Next up is the first S, which is the start of an action or event. Por ejemplo, la temporada del fútbol americano empezó el 5 de septiembre. It's already started and it can't go back and restart. Completed action. And we know it started on September 5th. La I is talking about the end of an action or event. Por ejemplo, me dormí a las 11 de la noche. Y la última S is the letter that I've added in to make this thing actually stick. The last S is for sequential events that occurred. So what do I mean by sequential events? It means there's an action, then that action ends and another action starts, another action. Por ejemplo, me levanté, me bañé, desayuné, y salí de la casa. So what do we have here? I got up, I took a shower, I ate breakfast, and then I left the house. All sequential actions. One started, then ended. Then we had another action start and end, and so on and so forth down the line. Thus, the reason why we call it sequential events. So those are all our reasons that we need to use el pretérito. So next up is issue number 2, knowing when to use el tiempo imperfecto. So essentially we have 4 basic reasons for when to use the imperfect tense. Número uno, to talk about what someone used to do. Número dos, to talk about what things were like or how they used to be. Y número cuatro, to talk about past actions or events with no specific beginning or ending. So to know when to use the imperfect tense exactly, I want you to use this acronym, Al swept. You know, like Al swept the floor. Al swept. That's going to be the acronym that we use con el tiempo imperfecto. First up, tenemos la A, age and attitude. Por ejemplo, yo tenía 15 años. We're talking about age. I was 15 years old. And of course, you would finish off your sentence with whatever you were talking about. Do we have a specific beginning or ending? Technically, no. Now, you might say, well, I was only 15 once, but you've got to remember, you were 15 for 365 days, right? So it was an ongoing action. What about attitude? Cuando era niño, a mí no me gustaban los perros. I didn't like dogs. Sí, es verdad. When I was younger, I didn't like dogs. It's giving off attitude towards dogs. Up next, tenemos la L, the L for location. Por ejemplo, yo vivía en una casa grande en Alemania, o también mi amigo no estaba en clase. Now, our newest letter that we're adding is la S. This S is going to be talking about simultaneous actions occurring. What do I mean by that? 2 actions occurring at the same time. Por ejemplo, mientras cocinaba, mi hermano estudiaba. While I was cooking, my brother was studying. We could also look at it like, while I used to cook, my brother used to study. Talking about 2 simultaneous actions occurring, ongoing actions at the same time. Y ahora tenemos la W, talking about weather. The W is for weather. Por ejemplo, llovía mucho en Londres. O hacía buen tiempo en San Diego todo el año. La E is for events, habitual or ongoing actions in progress. Por ejemplo, jugábamos al fútbol los sábados. O yo iba a Comado cuando vi un accidente. So as you can see in the first example, we used to play soccer on Saturdays. The other one is example or method where we have the ongoing action in progress. I was going to the Comado. Now, there's other ways to express I was going, but this is the simple way just to get you in the game right now. So we would use yo iba al Comado. Up next, tenemos la P. Physical description, feeling, emotion, appearance. Tú eras alta y tenías ojos verdes. Ellos tenían mucha hambre. O la casa era muy grande. All of these are physical appearance, feelings, emotions, descriptions. Y la última letra en al swept es la T. Por ejemplo, eran las 2 de la tarde. We're setting up the scene, giving background information there. So just to recap, to make sure you understand what we're talking about between noises and al swept, let's do a little quick practice run just to make sure you're tracking. Okay, tenemos 4 ejemplos. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to select should you use el pretérito o el imperfecto. Dime en los comentarios cuáles son las respuestas correctas. Vamos, fueron o eran las 10 de la mañana y hizo o hacía buen tiempo. Número 2. Ella fue o ella era joven y bonita. Ejemplo número 3. Los niños jugaron o jugaban al fútbol en el parque. Su madre leía o leyó una novela debajo de un árbol. De pronto, uno de los niños caía o cayó, se golpeó la cabeza y empezaba o empezó a llorar. Y ejemplo número 4. Dormía o dormí como un tronco, slept like a log. Cuando sonaba o sonó el teléfono. Me levantaba o me levanté, iba o fui a la sala de estar y descolgaba o descolgué. And if you're finding value in this video, make sure to give it a like and share it with someone that you think may be struggling with when to use the preterite versus when to use the imperfect tense. So now we've got noises for the preterite, we've got al swept for the imperfect, but there's one strategy left that I want to make sure you understand when you go into this, and we've talked about it already, el río y el relámpago. Basically, all this does is help you with knowing when and how to identify what the ongoing action is versus the interrupting action. So check it out. If you've made it this far in the video, this is where it becomes super simple to understand the difference between the two. Like I said earlier, I want you to think about el río, like the flow of a river, being your ongoing action. This is what will give us el tiempo imperfecto. Basically, it's the flow of your story. Ahora, el relámpago is what we would call our interrupting action. So how do we understand what the relámpago is in a story? I want you to look at it like this. When you're inside or outside and you're doing something and then all of a sudden you see a flash of light from the sky, what normally happens in that situation? We perk up, we look to see where it is. That's an interrupting action. It shows that you were already doing something and then you stopped immediately to see where the lightning occurred. That's your interrupting action. That's when you need to use el tiempo pretérito. But this part is super important to understand. You're not always going to have the same flow of the structure of a sentence when it comes to el río y el relámpago. Sometimes they may be reversed and your relámpago comes first, then the río happens. Let's take a look. I'll show it to you 2 different ways. Por ejemplo, mientras Mufasa y Taka jugaban en el campo, aparecieron de repente unos leones blancos. O sea, podemos decir, de repente aparecieron unos leones blancos mientras Mufasa y Taka jugaban en el campo. So you can see right here, we've done the same thing. Can you identify which one is the río and which one is the relámpago? Let me know in the comments. Dime en los comentarios. Now, if this was a little too deep for you and you need a refresher on the preterite and the imperfect tense separately, check out this playlist right here where I cover each tense in depth in their own separate video, and I'll see you over there. Soy Profe Don Omar, your guide to how to speak Spanish now. Nos vemos.